I remember coming into the Institute and there were 11 other people who were, I mean, it was just, I have goosebumps right now thinking about it. They were me, people who were really longing to use the resources that they have at the university to reach out to the community that they live in.
And so what the Obermann Center taught me was there was always ways to link to the outside world, so to speak. And so how can I be a vehicle to make that happen?
If you have one foot in activism like I do in environmental activism, that can be part of your scholarly research, and that those things do not have to be separate.
It was actually going through the Obermann Institute that I saw this whole big bright world that I didn't know existed.
I loved it. I wanted to play in that sandbox.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
I mean, the program obviously has this history of mental illness and how we deal with people in society, but also there was an element of sustainability to that. I mean, these people.
That's kind of what we were thinking about, like not only residencies, but even a space. Absolutely. That's reasonable. So that, that's also sustainable, because then there would be like a community.
In a way that's appropriate, so.
I have to say that one of the things I'm proudest of at the University of Iowa is being one of the founders of the Graduate Institute, bringing people from all across the university together to really enrich and intensify their research and their teaching by working with community partners on actual social issues.
Anybody knows where the graduate college is going? It's the type of work that the Obermann Center is doing.
And thanks to the generosity of the graduate college, we have help in funding that program.
Roughly 15 students a year. That's 150 students that are moving in this direction, learning how to do this work.
We made this open to any grad student on campus because it was constantly a test to any assumptions that we were having to think as a group of 15 or 20 about what engagement would mean from those disciplinary perspectives. Whatever we call it, I think the useful thing for me about the term engagement is the built-in reciprocity.
That idea of reciprocity has really stuck with me too, and I will forever have burned in my brain Teresa Mangum saying, you want to work with, not for, a community partner.
We're so often trained in being an expert, and being an expert in the worst case scenario becomes a defensive position instead of a place of generosity.
Was it just not the words that I am used to?
Yes, well, this is in my field, and I looked up many words.
Even better.
Getting a dictionary.
Yes, which is what I love about, having to do this. So I'm kind of curious what you made of that.
Coming from a biomedical background, but now I read the article, my understanding is totally different. Actually, I'm doing art. I mean, you said that aesthetic is embedded in whatever you are doing.
So these things are actually deeply intermingled all the time. And how can we recognize that, or how can we become more cognizant of that and work consciously in these realms?
I think in order to sustain your project and make it more efficacious, you have to utilize the aesthetic component of your project.
If you get 2 years into a really solid public engagement project and it doesn't turn out the way that you thought it would, or it fizzles, you will have come away with some lessons that equip you to do other things and usually lead to a different project that wasn't what you started with. And that's the big difference between traditional formal academic work and what publicly engaged work offers you as a person and as a thinker.
To listen long enough and think with people long enough to tap into that shared expertise.
It just seems intuitive to me that if you're going to do a project like my dissertation, which is on the Meskwaki Nation, why not make that accessible to them in a variety of ways, especially the ways that are most useful to them?
I think most faculty would agree with me that about day 2, the students often kind of look at each other and say, in one way or another, I have found my kind.
So it helped me to kind of own this sense of identity within a department where no one had ever come in, walking through the door saying they wanted to do this.
15 people just now feel more at home in the university and more validated in their goals.
Kat Litchfield is someone who was glad to find her people in the Institute in a profound kind of way. It was just kind of breathtaking to me. It just took all of her intelligence, and it is as though it went bing, 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 and aligned all of these various kind of neurons.
With the help of many campus and community members, we held the first annual Incarcerated in Iowa Symposium. We tried to create connections among a diverse array of prison projects. Through a day-long series of lectures, presentations, and breakout discussion sessions, attendees at the symposium explored Iowa prison community partnerships in their current state and discussed the future of these current and potential relationships.
Then when Kat came the next year, she was so articulate about her own transformation.
The seed was planted by Obermann. My collaborator that I did this with, Gemma Goodale-Sesson, she is a graduate student in the English department. I would never have met her if we both weren't Obermann Fellows.
It also teaches you a way of learning that means you're a better collaborator for future possibilities.
Suddenly we had something to do, and it was all possible because of this program, which continues to influence me regularly ever since.
People are looking for projects to do. People are looking to collaborate. It's just, I think for academics sometimes it's a scary thing to say, can we work together?
If you decide to have a career in academia, like, it is necessary to meet other people and push for collaboration or just even conversations outside your discipline.
And that's one of the things about the Obermann Institute that I liked, is talking across everybody's fields, and it's like you're continuing that.
Here I am as a professor. I'm still just enjoying the ability through Obermann to discover all the aspects of the university with the sort of the overriding focus of community engagement.
I think we're continuing to move toward new understandings about how we can engage with Iowans.
I'm just so grateful that my world has gotten bigger in Iowa City, thanks to the generosity of those communities really being willing to take on the role of being instructors for a day.
So that's kind of the brief history. Try and keep it a little short for you.
All right, so a few more minutes in here if you want to look around and take in the space, and then we'll connect with Shanti outside the space.
Something dish. So that's an NY, then that might be up there. No, that's not an NY. Nope. Yeah, it's so cool.
Oh yeah, you're good. Thank you. Yeah. It's a really cool day.
There's a lot of work to be done in Johnson County. I'm an organic farmer and I've been here for about 4 years. But there's a lot of barriers for small farmers. And so amazing opportunity for development in here around edible forests, landscapes, prairie restoration. I mean, conservation could have an amazing impact on this space.
Okay, so my name is Heather Noaquia, and I'm a Ph.D. candidate in the medieval history department. And one of the coolest things about studying medieval history is I get to look at 800-year-old pieces of parchment written by old men with crazy handwriting. I thought to myself, what can I as a historian bring to this? And what I can do is I can set up some kind of context so that people can have access to these documents. I've planned a 2-week paleography workshop, so participants who are going to come and they're going to take one of these manuscripts, a 1699 Spanish will, and they're going to transcribe what's on the page, and then they're going to translate it, and then hopefully we're going to put it up as an online publication where we'll have the original document, the transcription in Spanish, and then the translation in English. And so what I'm looking for are high school teachers, maybe an art teacher, maybe a music teacher, maybe English, history, Spanish. We could work together and figure out how their students can access this manuscript either at the workshop or the online edition and create something from that that can then go and be hosted on the website.
It's always exciting when you see your students exceed you. Exceed your imagination, exceed your capacity. And it just happens a lot with the Institute students. It's just a gift to hear afterward what people do. While more and more of us are very committed to publicly engaged scholarship, arts, and teaching, there's still a lot of doubt on the part of some of our colleagues about what that work even is, much less how it should be valued.
I mean, I have certainly had people in my department saying, we think this is great, this is the university of the future, this work that you're talking about, but it will get in your way right now, so don't go down that road yet. And I said, you know, too late.
This engagement piece that is totally central and integral to my work is being done in addition to a very traditional sort of written dissertation.
But I do still see some hesitancy in how that can really be taken into account of the work that you do in the department.
I don't think faculty has the tools yet quite to know how to lead or help students do this work. They're trying to figure out how do we, you know, assess what this person, me, is doing with this very unusual work. Right. But they're really jazzed about it and they can't wait to see it. And they just think like, kudos to you, and you know, and hopefully in the future we won't, you know, you could have a dissertation that's, you know, 2/3 civic engagement with this huge written assessment part, and they can hold weight together.
So somewhere along the way we have to all kind of go, we can rewrite the rules, you know, like it doesn't have to just be this way.
Part of the job of people like us as senior faculty members is to do all we can to advocate for the work people are doing, to try to, you know, win our colleagues over to a broader understanding of kinds of work, and to giving people the emotional as well as intellectual support that you get when you can find a community, as Barbara said, of other like-minded people, which is a big part of the value of the Institute.
Apart from the Obermann is the best thing that's probably happened in my life in a really long time.
I'm like leaving totally focused on like, we've got to find some better ways like to use like more qualitative tools and quantitative tools too, but to kind of like figure out a better way to tell our story. Kind of, I think.
Yeah, going up Emily, I definitely came in still in that big place of like the role of dance in society, and then I got asked these questions like, okay, so your methods and your like outcomes, what are the relationships between those things? What are these like tangible things that you want to take from these workshops that you're proposing? Like, what do you think you can actually accomplish in 2 hours? And that made me really kind of start thinking about things on a much smaller scale, which I think is really important, and this idea of like assessment.
You know, keep in mind to celebrate small victories, small successes, small accomplishments along the way, and then it's okay.
I do find whatever's going on here at Obermann really quite special.
I could not have done without that week at the Obermann Institute.
Project after project, I just keep coming back here for support.
Every single thing that I've done academically since then has been publicly engaged, and that is directly related to my experience at the Obermann Center.
The growing number of young people who go out from the Institute and engage their colleagues and professors in these discussions, we're on this wonderful journey.
Are there any others of you in other disciplines who are thinking about how you're going to go home? And
I think it just
shape the project and make it more doable. Now I can see the resources, make the contacts, and
working in this interdisciplinary setting is going to give me like a way to just be at ease with the questions a chemistry professor comes to me with, So.
Even more amazing is to get to work with, all kinds of people, music, art, dance, whatever. I mean, this is a unique opportunity for me because, we are across the river. We don't know what's going on here. Yeah, I mean, we are really in our world, like medicine, dentist, pharmacy, research.
There are often people who don't fit really neatly in a department. Like they do well in the department, but they just need more stimulation somehow. And problems might slow them down for a minute, but it tends to just inspire them to, okay, let's try this. And that's Craig is the epitome of that.
Yeah.
But so are you guys. That's why you're here. And I do think you can spend a lot of time telling the world what's wrong with it. Or you can start fixing it. And, the fixing part's fun.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, it'd be so great to do the Obermann Institute again. I know. I feel like I'd be so much smarter this time.